What if the kindest gesture you ever made turned out to be the most dangerous mistake of your life? Marcus Chen thought he was just being a good brother. His younger sister Emma begged him to let her colleague crash at his penthouse after a brutal work week. One innocent act of hospitality, one exhausted woman seeking refuge. But what Marcus didn't know was that his overnight guest wasn't just any tired professional. She was Sophia Lorent's secret heiress to a billion-dollar empire, living undercover as a regular employee. And the moment she walked through his door, everything he thought he knew about boundaries, loyalty, and forbidden attraction was about to shatter. This is the story of how one night changed 3 lives forever. And trust me, you won't see the twist coming. Let me paint you the picture of Marcus Chen's life before everything fell apart. At 32 years old, Marcus had built himself into exactly the kind of man women fantasized about but never quite got close to. 6'2", with the kind of quiet confidence that came from grinding through medical school and emerging as one of the city's youngest cardiac surgeons. His penthouse overlooked the glittering downtown skyline, all floor-to-ceiling windows and minimalist design that screamed, "Successful bachelor." But here's what most people didn't know about Marcus. He was intentionally single. Not because he couldn't find someone God knows the nurses at his hospital had tried, but because he'd seen what messy relationships did to people. His parents' bitter divorce when he was 15 had left scars deeper than any surgical incision. So Marcus kept his life clean, controlled, predictable, until that Friday night in late September. His phone buzzed while he was reviewing patient charts. Emma, his 26-year-old sister, the only person whose calls he always answered. "Mark, I need the biggest favor," she said, her voice tight with stress. "My colleague Sophia, she's completely burnt out. Our boss has been destroying her this week. Back-to-back 18-hour days. She literally fell asleep at her desk today. She lives an hour away, and I'm worried about her driving home. Can she crash at your place tonight, please? I'd bring her to mine, but Josh has his gaming tournament, and you know how loud that gets." Marcus hesitated. He didn't do house guests. His space was his sanctuary. "Emma, I don't even know this person. She's amazing, I promise. Super quiet, super respectful. She won't even know she's there. She just needs a bed and maybe a shower. Please, Mark. She's been like a big sister to me at work." And there it was, the thing Marcus could never resist. Taking care of Emma, protecting her. He'd been doing it since their parents split, when he was barely more than a kid himself. "Fine. But just tonight. You're the best. I'm sending her over now. Thank you, thank you, thank you." The call ended before he could change his mind. 45 minutes later, Marcus's doorbell rang. He opened it expecting, well, he didn't know what he expected. Someone who looked as exhausted as Emma described. Probably rumpled clothes, tired eyes, maybe smelling like stale coffee in desperation. Instead, Sophia Laurent stood in his doorway, and Marcus felt something shift in his chest, something he hadn't felt in years and didn't want to name. She was beautiful, but not in the polished magazine way. Her beauty was the kind that snuck up on you. Dark hair pulled back in a messy bun with strands escaping around her face. Olive skin that spoke of Mediterranean ancestry. But it was her eyes that stopped him, gray-green and absolutely exhausted, yes, but also intelligent. Guarded. Like they held secrets that could fill volumes. "Marcus?" Her voice was soft, almost apologetic. "I'm Sophia, Emma's colleague. I'm so sorry to impose like this." "No, it's come in." He stepped back, suddenly aware of how he looked in his worn t-shirt and sweatpants. "Emma said you've had a rough week." Sophia laughed, but there was no humor in it. That's the understatement of the year. She stepped into his penthouse, her small overnight bag clutched in one hand, and Marcus watched her take in his space. Most people commented on the view, or the expensive furniture, or asked what he did for a living. Sophia just looked relieved to be somewhere quiet. "The guest room is this way," Marcus said, leading her down the hallway. "Bathrooms attached. Towels are in the cabinet. Kitchen's open if you need anything." "Thank you." She turned to face him in the doorway of the guest room, and for a moment, they just looked at each other. "Really? You have no idea how much I needed this." Something in her voice, a crack in the armor, made Marcus pause. "When's the last time you ate?" he asked. Sophia blinked, clearly surprised by the question. Lunch? Maybe? What day is it?" "It's Friday." "Then, Wednesday?" Marcus felt his doctor instincts kick in. "Go take a shower. I'll make you something. You're not passing out in my guest room from malnutrition." "You don't have to. Shower." Now, he said it in his surgeon voice, the one that didn't accept arguments. To his surprise, Sophia smiled a real smile that transformed her entire face. Yes, doctor. She closed the door, and Marcus stood in his hallway wondering what the hell had just happened. She'd called him doctor. He hadn't told her what he did, which meant Emma had talked about him. The thought made him strangely pleased. 20 minutes later, Sophia emerged from the guest room in yoga pants and an oversized NYU sweatshirt, her hair damp and her face scrubbed clean. She looked younger without the makeup, more vulnerable. Marcus had laid out a simple meal at his kitchen island: grilled chicken, roasted vegetables, and wild rice. Nothing fancy, but nutritious. Fuel for a body that had been running on fumes. You cooked? Sophia stared at the plate like he'd just performed a miracle. Don't look so shocked. Surgeons have steady hands. It translates to cooking. He gestured to the bar stool. Sit, eat. She sat, and for a few minutes, there was only the sound of silverware on plates. Marcus pretended to scroll through his tablet, reviewing surgical notes, but he found himself watching her from the corner of his eye. The way she ate with genuine appreciation, not the performative picking he'd seen from dates who were more interested in appearing dainty than actually nourishing themselves. The way she closed her eyes after the first few bites, like she was savoring something sacred. The way her shoulders gradually relaxed, tension bleeding out of them as food and safety did their work. This is incredible, Sophia said finally. Where did you learn to cook? Out of necessity. Medical school doesn't leave time for restaurants, and cafeteria food is toxic sludge disguised as nutrition. He set down his tablet. Emma says you've been working 18-hour days. Sophia's expression darkened. My boss believes sleep is for the weak and boundaries are for people without ambition. What do you do? Corporate strategy. Mergers and acquisitions, mostly. She pushed rice around her plate. It's intense. There was something she wasn't saying. Marcus could always tell when people were holding back. It was like reading an EKG. You learn to spot the irregular rhythms. Why do you stay? He asked. The question seemed to surprise her. What? If it's destroying you, why stay? You're clearly smart, capable. There are other jobs. Sophia was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was barely above a whisper. Because sometimes the cage you know feels safer than the freedom you don't. The words hit Marcus harder than they should have. He understood that sentiment in his bones. That's a terrible reason, he said, but his voice was gentle. I know. She met his eyes, and something passed between them. Recognition, maybe. Understanding. What about you? Emma says you're married to your work. Emma talks too much. She loves you. That's obvious. Sophia smiled slightly. She says you practically raised her after your parents divorced. Marcus felt his defenses rising. Someone had to. That's a lot of responsibility for a kid. I managed. Did you? The question wasn't accusatory. It was curious, genuinely interested. And that's when Marcus realized something dangerous. He liked talking to this woman. He wanted to keep talking to this woman, which meant he needed to shut this down before it went anywhere. You should get some sleep, he said, standing abruptly. I have early rounds tomorrow. If Sophia was hurt by the sudden dismissal, she didn't show it. She just nodded, carried her plate to the sink, insisting on washing it herself despite his protests, and thanked him again before disappearing into the guest room. Marcus stood in his kitchen, surrounded by the silence of his perfect, controlled life, and felt the first tremor of something he'd kept locked away for years. Want. Marcus couldn't sleep. At 2:47 a.m., he gave up, pulled on a hoodie, and padded into his living room. The city lights sparkled beyond his windows, beautiful and distant. He poured himself a finger of whiskey and stood looking out at the view, trying not to think about the woman sleeping down the hall. Trying. Failing. Can't sleep either? He spun around. Sophia stood in the hallway, backlit by the soft glow from the guest room. She'd kept the sweatshirt on, but her legs were bare, and Marcus forced himself to look at her face. Adrenaline, he lied, always happens after long surgeries. You didn't mention you had surgery today. You didn't ask. She moved into the living room, keeping a respectful distance, but close enough that he caught her scent something clean and subtle, maybe lavender. Can I join you? Just for a bit. I promise I'll be out of your hair first thing tomorrow. Every instinct told Marcus to say no, to maintain boundaries, to protect the carefully constructed walls he'd built around his life. Instead, he poured her a whiskey. They sat on opposite ends of his leather couch, drinks in hand, the city spreading out before them like a carpet of stars. And somehow, in the intimate darkness of 3 a.m., Sophia started talking. She told him about her job, not just the brutal hours, but the politics, the way her boss took credit for her ideas, the way she felt invisible despite working harder than anyone else. She told him about moving to the city 5 years ago with dreams of making it big, of proving something to herself, and how somewhere along the way, she'd lost sight of what that something was. "I feel like I'm sleepwalking through my own life," she admitted, her voice cracking slightly. "Like I'm watching myself make choices I don't even agree with, but I can't seem to stop." Marcus knew he should say something comforting but generic, something safe. Instead, he heard himself say, "I know exactly what you mean." Sophia turned to look at him, her gray-green eyes reflecting the city lights. The brilliant surgeon who has everything figured out? The brilliant surgeon who chose medicine because it was concrete, measurable. Because if you follow the right steps, you get the right outcome. He swirled the whiskey in his glass. Relationships don't work that way. Emotions don't work that way, so I just opted out. That sounds lonely. Safe is better than lonely. Is it? She shifted slightly closer, and Marcus felt his pulse quicken. Or is that just what we tell ourselves to justify staying in our cages? He looked at her, then really looked at her. At the vulnerability in her eyes, the intelligence, the bone-deep exhaustion that matched his own. At the way she was trying so hard to hold everything together while simultaneously falling apart. And he wanted, with a fierceness that terrified him, to be the person who caught her. "Sophia," he said quietly, "I think you should go back to bed." "Why?" She wasn't flirting. She was genuinely asking. "Are you afraid of what might happen if I stay?" "Yes." The honesty hung between them like a held breath. Sophia set down her glass. For a moment, Marcus thought she would leave. "Should leave. Please leave." "Instead," she said, "what if I told you I'm afraid too? But I'm more afraid of walking away from whatever this is than I am of getting hurt." "Then I'd say you're not thinking clearly. You're exhausted, vulnerable. I'm not some damsel in distress you need to protect, Marcus." There was steel in her voice now. "I'm a grown woman who knows what she wants. And right now, sitting here with you, I feel more awake than I have in years." Marcus felt something inside him crack. All those carefully maintained walls, all that control, threatening to crumble under the weight of one honest woman and her fearless gray-green eyes. "This is a bad idea," he said. But even as the words left his mouth, he was leaning closer. "Probably the worst," Sophia agreed, and closed the distance between them. The kiss was supposed to be just a kiss. One moment of weakness, a release of tension, something they could blame on the hour, the whiskey, the strange intimacy of shared confessions in the dark. Instead, it felt like coming home to a place Marcus didn't know existed. Sophia tasted like whiskey and something sweet, and when her fingers threaded through his hair, Marcus felt the last of his resistance shatter. He pulled her closer, one hand cupping the back of her neck, the other settling on her waist, and she made a small sound that went straight through him. They pulled apart, both breathing hard. "We should stop," Marcus said. "We should," Sophia agreed. Neither of them moved. "I don't do this," he said. "I don't mess around with my sister's friends. I don't do one-night stands. I don't." "Shh." Sophia pressed a finger to his lips. "What if this isn't any of those things? What else could it be?" She smiled, sad and knowing. "Something real. Something terrifying. Something worth the risk." One. And then she was kissing him again, and Marcus stopped thinking altogether. They moved to his bedroom, his sanctuary, the place he never let anyone invade. Every step felt monumental, like crossing into foreign territory. But Sophia's hand in his felt right, and when she looked up at him in the doorway, asking silent permission, he drew her inside. What happened next was tender and desperate, and completely unlike anything Marcus had experienced before, because it wasn't just physical. It was connection, raw and honest and vulnerable. Sophia looked at him like she saw past all his defenses to the person underneath. And terrifyingly, Marcus found himself wanting to be seen. Afterward, they lay tangled in his sheets, the city lights painting patterns on the ceiling. Sophia traced absent circles on his chest, and Marcus played with strands of her hair, both of them caught in that strange twilight space between sleep and waking. "I need to tell you something," Sophia said quietly. Marcus felt her tense in his arms. "Okay. My name isn't really Sophia Laurent." His heart stuttered. "What?" She sat up, pulling the sheet around herself, her expression anguished. I mean, it is, but it's not the whole truth. I'm not just a corporate strategy analyst. I'm, she took a shaky breath. My family owns Laurent Industries. The Laurent Industries. Global conglomerate, Fortune 500, all of it. I'm the heir. Marcus stared at her, trying to process this information. You're, what? 5 years ago, I told my father I wanted to understand the business from the ground up. Not as the boss's daughter, but as a regular employee. So I took a position under an assumed identity, well, partial identity. I wanted to prove I could make it on my own merit, but then I got stuck. My boss is actually one of my father's executives, and he's been testing me, pushing me, trying to see if I'll break or reveal who I really am. Tears welled in her eyes. I've been living this double life for so long, I don't even know who I am anymore. Marcus felt like the ground had shifted beneath him. Why are you telling me this? Because what we just shared, it felt real. And I'm tired of lying. I'm tired of hiding. She reached for his hand. You asked me why I stay in a job that's destroying me. This is why. Because the moment I quit, I become Sophia Laurent, heiress, and I lose any chance of figuring out who Sophia Laurent person actually is. Marcus pulled his hand away, his mind racing. Your father owns Laurent Industries. That's Emma never mentioned. Emma doesn't know. No one at the company knows except my boss. That was the deal. So this whole thing, you showing up here exhausted, vulnerable, was that real? Or was I just another test? Sophia flinched like he'd slapped her. How can you say that? Because you just told me your entire life is a lie. Marcus stood, pulling on his sweatpants, needing distance. I don't do complicated, Sophia, or whatever your real name is. I don't do drama and secrets, and my real name is Sophia, she said fiercely, standing to face him. And yes, I have money and family complications, but that doesn't make what just happened between us any less real. If anything, it makes it more real. Because for the first time in 5 years, I let someone see the actual me. The actual you is a billionaire heiress playing dress-up in the real world. Marcus shot back, hating himself even as the words left his mouth. When you get bored of this experiment, you'll go back to your penthouse, probably one nicer than this, in your trust fund in your real life. And people like Emma, who actually work for a living, will be left behind. Sophia's face went pale. You think that's what this is about? You think I'm slumming it? I think I have no idea who you really are, and I think you don't either. The silence that followed was devastating. Sophia gathered her clothes with shaking hands, not looking at him. Marcus watched her, feeling like the worst kind of bastard but unable to take back the words. Unable to push past the wall of panic that had slammed down the moment she revealed her secret. She dressed quickly, mechanically, then turned to face him one last time. You're right, she said quietly. I don't know who I am. I've been pretending for so long that I forgot how to be real. But tonight, for a few hours, I thought maybe I'd found someone who could help me remember. Her voice cracked. I guess I was wrong. She walked to the door, put her hand on the handle, stopped. For what it's worth, she said without turning around, you were wrong about one thing. This wasn't an experiment, and when I go back to my real life, it won't be because I was bored. It'll be because you pushed me away the moment I showed you the truth. Then she was gone. Marcus stood in his bedroom, surrounded by sheets that still smelled like her, and felt the crushing weight of what he'd just done. He'd spent years building walls to protect himself from the mess of human connection. And the first time someone brave enough to scale those walls appeared, he'd shoved her off the other side. His phone buzzed. Emma, did Sophia make it to you okay last night? She's not answering her phone. Marcus's throat felt tight. She left early. Emma. Who is she? Really? A pause. What do you mean? Is there something you're not telling me about your colleague Sophia? Another pause, longer this time. Mark, why are you asking? Just answer the question. Emma sighed. Okay, look, I probably shouldn't tell you this, but Sophia's not just my colleague. She's been like a mentor to me. She's brilliant, kind, and she works harder than anyone I know. But there's something about her that feels, I don't know, sad? Like she's carrying this huge weight no one else can see. I thought maybe spending time somewhere normal, somewhere safe, might help. That's why I asked you to take her in. That's not what I asked. Who is she? She's my friend, Marcus. Why does it matter? He couldn't answer that, because the truth was too complicated, too raw, too much. Never mind, I have to go. He ended the call before Emma could ask more questions. For the rest of the weekend, Marcus tried to forget. He threw himself into work, taking extra shifts, staying late to review cases that didn't need reviewing. Anything to avoid the memory of Sophia's gray-green eyes looking at him with hurt and disappointment. But Monday brought a development he never saw coming. Marcus was reviewing charts in his office when his phone rang. Unknown number. Dr. Chen? This is Catherine Walsh, executive assistant to Alexander Laurent of Laurent Industries. Marcus's blood went cold. I'm sorry, who? Mr. Laurent would like to meet with you. Today, if possible. We can send a car to collect you from the hospital at 6 p.m. I don't understand. Why would? It concerns his daughter, Dr. Chen. I believe you know her as Sophia. The call ended before Marcus could respond. At 6 p.m. sharp, a sleek black town car appeared outside the hospital. Marcus considered not getting in, considered calling Emma or texting Sophia or just running in the opposite direction. Instead, he climbed into the car like a man walking to his execution. Laurent Industries headquarters was everything you'd expect from a billion-dollar empire. All glass and steel and intimidating opulence. Marcus was escorted to the top floor, through a maze of corridors, into a corner office that commanded a view of the entire city. Alexander Laurent stood at the window, his back to Marcus. He was tall, silver-haired, imposing even in silhouette. Dr. Chen, thank you for coming. He turned, and Marcus saw where Sophia got her eyes. Please, sit. Marcus remained standing. Why am I here? Straight to the point, I appreciate that. Alexander moved to his desk, pressed a button. A screen descended from the ceiling, displaying what looked like security footage. This is from my daughter's apartment building, early Saturday morning. Marcus watched Sophia enter the frame, her overnight bag over her shoulder, her expression devastated. She moved like someone in physical pain. She hasn't left her apartment since, Alexander continued. Won't answer calls, won't respond to messages. According to my sources, something happened Friday night that broke her. And those same sources tell me she spent Friday night at your residence. Marcus felt ice in his veins. You're having your daughter followed? I'm protecting my daughter. There's a difference. Alexander's expression hardened. Sophia is brilliant, headstrong, and determined to prove she doesn't need the family name or fortune. For 5 years, I've honored her request for anonymity, even when it meant watching her struggle and exhaust herself. Do you know what that costs a father? Watching your child suffer to prove a point? With all due respect, this is none of my business. It became your business when you let her into your home, into your bed, and then destroyed her. Alexander leaned forward. What did you do to my daughter, Dr. Chen? Marcus met his gaze. I told her the truth, that I don't do complicated, that I can't be what she needs. No. Alexander's voice was cold. You rejected her the moment she trusted you enough to be honest. You made her feel ashamed of who she is. There's a difference between honesty and cruelty, Doctor. The words hit like a punch to the gut because they were true. Sophia spent 5 years trying to prove she's more than her name, Alexander continued. She's worked herself to exhaustion, endured a boss who I specifically chose to test her, lived in a modest apartment when she could have had a mansion. All to earn something most people take for granted, the right to be seen as herself. And the first time she let someone see all of herself background, complications, and all you throw it in her face. Marcus felt sick. I didn't mean, it doesn't matter what you meant, it matters what you did. Alexander walked back to the window. I didn't bring you here to punish you, Dr. Chen. I brought you here to understand what's at stake. My daughter is at a crossroads. She can continue this experiment, keep hiding, keep denying who she is. Or she can come home, take her rightful place in the company, and spend the rest of her life wondering, what if? What if she'd been brave enough to live authentically? What if someone had loved her for all of who she is, not despite her complications, but because of them? He turned back to Marcus. You could be that person, or you could be the reason she gives up trying. Marcus drove to Sophia's apartment building in a daze. He'd gotten the address from Emma, who'd demanded the full story before forking it over, and then called him an idiot for 20 solid minutes. She wasn't wrong. He stood outside Sophia's door for a full 5 minutes before knocking. No answer. He knocked again. Sophia, it's Marcus. Please open the door. Silence. I know you're in there. Your father showed me the security footage. Very invasive, by the way. You should have words with him about that. Still nothing. Marcus pressed his forehead against the door. I'm an idiot. A complete, total, absolute idiot. You trusted me with the truth, and I threw it back in your face because I was terrified. Not of who you are, but of how much I want this. Want you? He heard movement on the other side of the door. For years, I've kept everyone at arm's length, Marcus continued. I convinced myself it was about control, about avoiding my parents' mistakes. But the truth is, I was just scared. Scared of wanting something I might lose. Scared of being vulnerable. Scared of feeling anything real. The lock clicked. The door opened. Sophia stood there in sweatpants and a t-shirt, her eyes red from crying, her hair a mess. She'd never looked more beautiful to Marcus. You hurt me, she said simply. I know, I'm sorry. You made me feel like I had to apologize for existing. I know, I'm sorry. You're going to have to do better than I'm sorry. But there was a glimmer of something in her eyes. Hope, maybe, or the willingness to hear him out. Marcus took a deep breath. I spent my whole life building walls, staying safe, staying in control. And then you showed up, exhausted and honest and brave, and you started dismantling those walls brick by brick. When you told me who you really are, it terrified me. Not because you have money or come from a powerful family, but because it meant you were real. This was real. And real things can hurt you. They can also heal you, Sophia said quietly. I know that now. Marcus stepped closer. Your father came to see me. Threatened me kind of, but mostly made me understand what an incredible gift you gave me Friday night. Trust. Honesty. Your real self, complications and all. And I threw it away because I'm a coward. Sophia's expression softened slightly. My father went to see you? Very protective, very intimidating. I see where you get your intensity. A smile ghosted across her lips, then faded. Marcus, I don't know if I can do this. Put myself out there again just to have you push me away. Then don't put yourself out there. Let me come to you. Marcus took her hand. I want to know everything about you. The billionaire heiress and the exhausted corporate strategist and the woman who makes terrible life choices like eating Wednesday's lunch on Friday. I want the complications and the mess and the real, terrifying, beautiful truth of who Sophia Laurent actually is. Tears spilled down Sophia's cheeks. What if you decide it's too much? What if I decide it's exactly enough? She searched his face for a long moment. Marcus let her look, hiding nothing, offering everything. Finally, she said, I'm probably going to quit my job, come clean to my father, maybe take a year off to figure out who I actually am without all the performance. Sounds terrifying. It is. Want company? Sophia laughed through her tears. You're a cardiac surgeon. You can't just take a year off. Maybe not a full year, but I've got vacation time I've never used. Weekends, evenings, whatever it takes to show you, I'm serious about this. This is crazy. We barely know each other. I know you're brave and honest, and you eat my cooking like it's a religious experience. I know you make me want to be braver than I've ever been. That's a pretty good start. Marcus pulled her closer. But you're right. We should take this slow. Get to know each other properly. Date, like normal people. Normal people, Sophia repeated, and suddenly she was laughing. Marcus, I'm a billionaire heiress who's been living undercover for 5 years, and you're a commitment-phobic surgeon who keeps everyone at arm's length. We're the opposite of normal. Okay, true. But maybe that's the point. Maybe normal is overrated. Sophia looked up at him, her gray-green eyes bright with tears and laughter, and something that looked dangerously like hope. You really mean this? You want to try? I really mean this. I want to try. She kissed him then, soft and sweet and full of promise. And Marcus felt something inside him unlock something he didn't even know was closed. When they finally pulled apart, Sophia said, My father probably has surveillance on this building. He definitely knows you're here. Great. That's not terrifying at all. Welcome to the complications. Marcus smiled. Complications and all.